guys, and welcome back to our Star Wars Resistance recap show, Viva la Resistance! My name is Chris Doman. I am here today with, as usual, Case Cornelisa, Nico Rigoli. And so, let's address the elephant in the room. First thing, we kind of didn't do a recap for last week's episode, the Relic Raiders. Sorry, but scheduling kind of got in the way, and unfortunately, we all kind of came to the same mindset. So let's just talk about the last week's episode for just like 2 seconds here. It was fine.
It was filler to the point that I considered not watching the show until it got good again. And my girlfriend said the same. Like it was a slightly different in terms of we saw a Sith temple. That's cool. Mm-hmm. And it's not just they fight a giant creature on a planet, they kill the creature and we get away. But still, they face the First Order, they beat the First Order, last second, cool, awesome, and they get away.
And you know me, I'm like one of the biggest sympathizers to some of what would be considered filler episodes. Like I still tried to find the bright side about that Bebo episode from last season. But this, I'm not going to lie, last week's episode kind of felt more like a chore to watch than anything else. It just felt like we're doing this because we do this show and we have to watch it so that we can review it. And it just felt like they weren't giving me a reason to be invested other than let's see how they can do the Star Wars version of Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
All Indiana Jones movies. There were references to Temple and even Crystal Skull.
And actually, that's why I don't hate it, because I liked that aspect to it. It's granted, it wasn't, but, yes, it was kind of the same thing that we've been seeing a lot of, and that was a little annoying, just like how we wanted some more plot, we wanted some more details, we wanted some juicy lore, and sure, for me, who loves the show for the lore that it gives, I appreciated some of the stuff that was added in, like the Relic Raiders thing, like how they're the ones who go around and get the stuff for Kylo Ren, but that was kind of it.
Yeah.
And it bummed me out that, like, sure, we got to see the Sith Temple, but literally, we wouldn't have bothered if we didn't have the kids with, and that's what, unfortunately, for me, and all of us, I presume, kind of dragged the episode down. So,
if you want a great Star Wars animated episode with the Sith Temple, watch Twilight of the Eternities.
Yeah.
I will say this though, I feel like we're gonna get some payoff from that episode down the road. I just don't know when. Like
it in a new character.
It did. So please pay that off well. That's all we're asking. And I think that about covers our thoughts on that episode. So, with that, we've now I'll move on to episode 8, The Rendezvous Point. And holy crap, this is a total 180 where, you know what? I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. And it to me, it sparked back a lot of what I came to love so much about season 1, where a lot of it was very energetic and had a lot of the spirit of the original Star Wars in terms of that adventure setting. And, that's sort of my initial thoughts. Case, what are some of your initial thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, this was a return to form where we get the resistance versus First Order back. We actually get back to Tierney and Tam and Rucklin. They're back in it again. I was so glad to just see that because the episode already just starts with them fighting, and I was like instantly like, yes, we're back to form. This is what we need to do. Now let's see where this takes us. Because all the episodes previously of them going to a planet, facing a monster, it going wrong, and then in the end it goes right and they get away. I was getting so sick of that. Jesus.
Nico, what are your initial thoughts on the episode?
So we did get some Resistance versus First Order stuff, which is one of the big things you guys have been wanting more of. But I still see this as a bit of a more interpersonal episode that just happened to feature some dynamics of the Resistance and the
Yeah.
First Order interacting. And, there's some things I want to say at this moment, but I'll save for later on in this discussion, simply because I don't want to give away everything that happened so early. So, let's continue.
Yeah, no, and there's certainly a lot of mystery to this episode, which I think is especially what I appreciate about it, where we're given some really juicy details, but we're not quite given the exact as to why certain things took place, how certain things have been happening over the last few years. But let's just start from the beginning. A dogfight, and a pretty awesome looking one at that. Like, again, return to form, where the First Order and the Resistance are squaring off, and the animation just looks beautiful. Oh. And one of the best parts about the dogfight is that it really brings back a lot of the animation that I was really loving from season 1, especially like how the flight movement, especially how like Hype's trying to shake off 2 ties. Kaz is really in a pickle with this one tie who just won't get off his tail, and then Tora, of course, comes in, sort of saves the day for a moment, But as they're going, they keep referencing, where is she? We can't wait for her for too much longer. And the whole time, I was actually like really wondering, who are they referring to? Who is this she? Now, of course, that's answered later, but guys, were you sort of in that same place that I was when you were watching this opening?
Case, you can go first on this.
Oh, okay. I was secretly hoping for Leia, but that might be just a little bit too much hope. Also considering the events of the Last Jedi, but still, I that was in the back of my mind. But the funny thing was, because I watched it with my girlfriend, and she said, "I think it's her mother," and she was right. I was like, "What?" She knew it based on the opening scene alone. That they kept mentioning her, and she was like, "Yeah, it's her mother." Yeah, but this was a really cool opening. Good action, and as you said, Tora saved Kaz. It was a nice little moment. I liked it. But yeah, this was just a really good opening scene.
Yeah, Nico?
Well, so much for my efforts to be cryptic. But I had a feeling the moment Tora said, and forgive me if I'm getting the quote wrong, but she said, "Dad, I think we have to go without her." From that moment, I realized it's their mom. It's her mom, his wife, and it also helped to have read the episode description before I watched it. So it says something about someone from Doza's past. So it's kind of like, and then this kind of filled in the blank of like, oh, it's their mother. And then the moment, because like as soon as they rejoin the Colossus and get out of there, 5 microseconds later, she literally comes in and you hear the accent and you see, and you also hear sort of the swagger in her voice, and you realize that's a Doza family member right there. So it was kind of cool seeing the mom brought into the picture finally. There's some tropes I'm going to touch on throughout this discussion as it relates to my senior research project that just kind of happens to fit in here. But it was cool seeing her brought into the picture. And you can sort of see from the very beginning the correlation between her and Tora. Like, you can see Tora's a chip off the old block from that very first second we get of seeing her mother in the picture.
Yeah, so one of the cool things that we know about Veneza Doza is that, she's very much like Tora in the sense that she's very confident in her abilities, and she is still one hell of a pilot, as well as, very much in control even when the odds are stacked against her. Because, Lewis, as soon as she shows up, sure, she takes two ties out, but she gets caught in the tractor beam. And, she's talking to her droid Torch, who, swear to God, I love this little droid already. I really want to see more of him. but they're doing their thing, and she gets there, and as soon as she's arrested, she's like, "Relax, Buckethead. My hands are up." She's got just that attitude that I love about her. But as all that's going on, it just so happens that the Star Destroyer that's chasing them is, of course, Tierney's ship. And who else should be there but a certain pilot that, we're all still kind of mad at for betraying everyone last season. Tam. Not everything's quite so hunky-dory, is it, being on the dark side? Is it, Tam? Are you regretting your decisions yet, Tam? Because you should be. And as Vanessa is, locked up, Tam actually, through sort of a feeling of possible recognition, she has to go investigate. She has to go see what's going on. And as all that's happening, they start getting into this really awesome conversation about how, even though Doza and Yeager and all them did make a mistake not trusting Tam, she still should forgive them and come back to the Colossus. Nico, talk me through some of your thoughts as you're watching that particular conversation and some of the intrigue that it brought up.
First off, I just want to bring it back to when she's captured for just a second.
Oh, yeah.
I love that Vanessa and Torch have multiple escape plans mapped out for just this sort of situation.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me of that, because I remember that she mentioned, oh, it's just like the time we escaped Bakura. And I'm like, hey, as someone who played Jedi Academy, I know that planet. Well done, ma'am.
Oh.
Yeah,
but yeah. I love it because it shows like this is a battle-tested, experienced pilot who just knows war inside and out. 'Cause, like, this is someone who's fought the good fight for a long time, and so it shows the experience that both she and Torch have being in this sort of thing. And I love the playing dead was their game plan, because I'm like, how do you play dead? Like, they're gonna see you moving in the cockpit, and then I'm like, oh. So Torch is the one playing dead, and he's just going to come back later on. I like that very much. But going to the conversation where they're separated by that holographic screen, which is the equivalent of jail bars, I'd like that we're still seeing signs that Tam, we at first thought that she had gone all in, but no, she's showing hesitations again because she realizes the lack of individuality she has. And Vanessa, she's seen this enough times where, like, oh, youth easily influenced by someone preaching that we're going to make things better, this and that. It's very similar to our political system right now. And Vanessa could see through the bull crap, and she was like, what is it that you want? What is it that they're offering you that you want? And Tam really couldn't put an answer to that question, and so she's like doubting herself now. And then in comes Torch for the save to taser, and Vanessa gets free and uses Tam as a hostage to get through. So, like, again, showing the experience of war, which Tam does not really have. Otherwise, she would have approached it from the perspective of a soldier, not of a human being who's still thinking like a common person as opposed to a first order officer.
Yeah. And actually, I'm glad I forgot about that too, about how Torch had to play dead. I'm like, oh crap, that's literally my strategy of how I get off the Leviathan in Knights of the Republic every single time. I don't bother with anyone else. I just have HK show himself off for 30 minutes and I have him go around and rescue everyone. So, in case, as someone who recognizes what I just said, what were your thoughts on all those shenanigans there?
Can we please address the fact that some characters made some really stupid decisions? Look, Tam going to see Vanessa is very naive of her, and is probably something that she shouldn't have done, but her curiosity got in the way. I can kind of get that. But Vanessa straight up telling Tam who she is, that seemed extremely stupid in the moment. We know later that Vanessa knows actually a lot about the people on the Colossus, and that's why she recognizes Tam. And that's why Like, this is a kid show, and we are, and I think we're once again reminded by it because Vanessa is like, I see the good in you. I know you have good in you, and you can come back. That's kid show. That's kid show writing, and her telling her name is not smart from a strategy point of view. So I was a little annoyed by this, and even more so a little later when Rucklin decides to not just shoot, but he talks. Oh my god! These are a couple of things that really frustrated me about the episode. And while this is probably the best episode of the season, man, it had issues for me. But the conversation was nice, and yeah, it is indeed once again a moment for Tam to realize that she probably made the wrong decision, and she is time and time again reminded of that because yeah, she introduces herself with her designation, and instantly like she Tam is not fully convinced of saying that. She tries to act convinced, but she's not, and Vanessa sees right through that. Like, you're not this 533 number. You're Tam. You're Tamra. You've always been Tam. You'll always be Tam. So own up to it and let's indeed, as Nico said, cut the bull crap and see what you are made of. And I do think there is a redemption arc in place for Tam, which I'm a little bummed by because I honestly wanted her to just fully give into it. But
Same.
again, kids show. So yeah, this scene did remind me again. It is a kids show, and unfortunately, that limits them to doing these type of things rather than something that I think would be really dark and really cool. But they can't do that.
So, and it's funny that you bring that up because, on the one hand, I'm in full agreement. I really wish that the show wouldn't try to redeem Tam, that they would go full dark side with her. But I've come to realize that that's kind of why they had Ruckland go with Tam to sort of do that parallel storytelling of how she could still be saved and he chose not to, which, again, now you mention it. So, Vanessa captures Tam, and Ruckland was, stalking in the shadows the whole time. Ruckland. Yeah. It's Elijah Wood. Frodo. So he's been following the whole time. He's got a blaster ready. And yes, thank you for pointing that out because, he has a clear shot at Vanessa, but he has to shoot Tam to get to her. And were this literally any other content, you know that he would have at least tried. Now, they do the sort of typical thing of, well, anything, TV, movies, where the villain has to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. That's just...
Yeah.
Again, that's not just kids shows. That's every show.
Yeah, it's a trope that I'm a little annoyed by every time it happens.
I'm kind of with you on that one, in fairness. But yet, it actually proved a good moment for telling Tam that she made the wrong decision again. Which again, I wish they just doubled down on evil. But what are you gonna do? And then, of course, they do the whole trick with the door where, again, because he's taking the time to talk, it gives Torch the time to get to the door, which, now Torch is kind of like R2 in that sense, where he's cocky, he'll smart mouth you, but when you need him in a pinch, he's good. And, yeah, so they just kind of keep doing that until they get to, the hangar, and that's when, Tam's moment to shine in the episode's over as, she's just put to sleep. Vanessa even says, when you wake up, don't come to the hangar. When I wake up, oh, no.
Damn it.
It's like, yeah, but of course, and then they have what I will argue is an even better version of the Finn and Poe escape from Force Awakens. This was something straight out of Rebels. And I loved it.
Yeah, this is exactly like Rebels. This extremely reminded me of the episode Hera's Heroes, where at the end they blow up Hera's house, and it's Chopper setting all the charges around. This was pretty much like Chopper going around setting charges, making the distraction work. And I like that callback. It's a nice parallel. It rhymes. Yes, George, we know.
You beat me to it. Nico, any thoughts on that conversation with Ruckland before we really get into the hangar escape?
I don't know if this show wants me to like Ruckland or hate him. Like whatever their intention is for how they want me to feel about him. But like I feel about
Case,
him.
we know it's Ruckland. We know.
Let it go. But
make like Frozen and let go.
I feel the same way about him that I do about Bellatrix Lestrange from Harry Potter, in that like he's so unlikable. He's so unlikable, and like I feel like that's the show's intention, but I still dislike him more than maybe the creators want me to. He's so annoying. But you know, it makes sense to me that he wouldn't take the shot, simply because you got to remember Tam and Rucklind. There, are you happy now?
Rucklind, there's no D. I'm not happy.
Excuse me while I look up his first name, so you'll leave me alone.
Jace. That's easier.
Tam and Jace. There we go. Tam and Jace, before they joined the First Order, they were just sort of racer pilots. Like, they might have had, like, there might have been some lasers on their racers, but for the most part, they didn't really have to, like, use them. Like, they were just competing in races. They were trying to prove that they're, like, the fastest pilots on this side of the galaxy. So, like, doing something like that out of a dogfight, nonetheless, like holding a pistol, a blaster, excuse me, right at someone face to face where you can see your target, like, that's going to shake you up the first time you do that. So it makes perfect sense to me why he wouldn't go for it. That said, he's still more angry with the people of the Colossus than Tam was. Like, she made the decision to join the First Order when she was at her most vulnerable and most angry. And now she's kind of like having second thoughts. Jace, on the other hand, he's still angry at them. He has not let that go, and that's why he's still kind of cheering the First Order flag.
Yeah, especially when you throw in lines like, "The Resistance will never win." It's like, look, bud, Rise of Skywalker ain't out yet, but I'm pretty sure they're going to win at the end of that movie. So, deal with it.
Actually, based on the trailer for The Rise of Skywalker, I don't think there is a winning or losing for the First Order and the Resistance, considering they have another threat to deal with. Might be just me.
And by the way, to touch on the escape scene, I want so desperately to see a scene in the next episode of the hologram call with Kylo Ren after hearing that one pilot and one droid somehow took out the entire hangar of a Star Destroyer. I want to see him flip off and just start throwing people around through the transmission.
The droid stole a fighter. Not exactly so. He had help.
The droid was accompanied by a girl. What girl? Well, not really a girl, so a full woman, mid-50s. Oh, never mind. I don't care about her. All right. So
if she's not a British brunette, then I don't want it.
He's still gonna be angry though, because a middle-aged woman made his entire crew look like fools.
Well, yeah, exactly. But yeah, no. This entire sequence was awesome. Starting with the explosives that go on, and like Tierney clearly knows that that's just a diversion. But then she pulls a double deception with the TIE Fighter, because, you know, the Force Order just had this happen in Force Awakens, so they were kind of ready for it. But they weren't ready for the fact that it was just the droid in there, and that she was going to actually steal back her X-Wing and then take off, and I'm just like...
By the way, something very important. Tam shouts something, and Tierney sees it. I hope that comes back.
Yes, she does. You know... And as she takes off into hyperspace with Torch finally flying back, just like Chopper would at the end of a Rebels, heist, Tam clearly is gonna get a scolding from Agent Tierney, and they do that whole report to my division at once, go to security for debriefing. It's like, oh boy, Tam's in trouble, because and I will give her this. I give Tam credit for taking blame for all that happening, even though nobody in the First Order was to blame. It's just that she was smarter than everyone. Deal with it. So,
True.
yeah, and then while all that's been going on, we've been getting the backstory about Vanessa and her relation to Tora and Kaz, and there's something I actually really appreciate where,
Dora and Emmanuel.
well, yes, you're right, but sorry, I was trying to set myself up for actually a good moment between Tora and Kaz when Tora is so determined to actually jump back to that quote unquote rendezvous point, right in the middle of the First Order still there, and Kaz actually offers to go with her. And I'm like, oh, my ship. But then I'm also like, in character, that's a very Kaz thing. Like, he even says, poorly made up plans, that's right up my alley. And yes, it is. Yes, it very much is. But I gotta say, like, I really appreciate just how much Kaz like actually cares about the other pilots, and Tora obviously especially because ship it and all that. But and then of course we cut to the ending where Kaz with help from Niku and the other aces, because all this is happening because it just so happens to be Tora's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And what better way to celebrate someone's birthday than with a nice old cake among friends and a Gorg that tries to eat Griff, and it's hilarious. Guys, what are your thoughts on the ending of the episode?
I mean, technically, this isn't the ending.
Wow.
There's still one more scene, but this was sweet. This was a sweet moment, and I'm actually a little surprised that Tora didn't go through with her plan to like fly back and see if she could catch up with her.
It would have been a suicide mission anyway.
I mean, you're not wrong, but still, they talked about it, so it's like it was planted in my head for a bit that, oh, they're going to try this now. And they didn't go through with it. Instead, they go with an entirely different plan of just, let's make you feel good about yourself here, where it's safe, and we won't have to run any risk. And, like, we don't get to see a lot of desserts in Star Wars, so this was kind of fun, too. Like, there's Jell-O in Star Wars now. That's something we didn't know before. They made an entire gelatin cake with a live animal in it. This universe knows no bounds. But I like this. This was a very nice feel-good moment between all the aces, because apparently the aces didn't even know it was her birthday up until that day. Like, you've been hanging with these people for a long time. You'd think they'd know, but I guess not. So, yeah, I thought this was a nice moment.
Case?
This was indeed a nice moment. We forgot about something that happened earlier in the episode, and I believe it was a conversation between Yeager and Doza, or I think it's Yeager, Tora, and Doza, where they acknowledged the fact that Captain Doza, he was with the Empire, and thanks to Vanessa, who was on the other side, Doza or Emmanuel, as we now know, was convinced to stop being an Imperial. So that's nice that Tora's mom made sure that he's now on the good side, or at least what we assume is the good side. And well, that makes then for a nice moment at the end. We'll get to it. But I thought that was like a cool insight. Like, his imperial heart was melted by a woman.
And amongst all the celebrations, Tora sneaks off to be with her dad for a quick moment, and I did like how they have a quick little moment just between father and daughter, and a nice little realization that while it would be great to have his wife, her mom around, the galaxy needs her more at the moment because still in the middle of a war and whatnot. And I think that ought to about do it to start to wrap it up. So, Case, we'll start with you. Give me some final thoughts in regards to the rendezvous point.
Well, it was a very nice moment to end on. Just like a kind of family reunion, despite the fact that they didn't actually meet with their mom. And I wonder if we will. I kind of hope that that comes back in an episode where they do meet with her and she's actually like helpful in a mission or something. Would be very cool to see that. Maybe have her like pilot alongside Tora through a dogfight or something. Um, I think that sets up for a lot of potential in a future episode. So it would be nice to see such a thing happen. Um, but yeah, it was. It started off being very much about well, First Order versus Resistance, but then it turned into a Torah episode, or at least a Doza-driven episode, where it's not just about Torah, but it's also about apparently her mother, who we knew nothing about until now, and also a little bit more about her father. And there it became quite personal, and it's very nice to see that. Among being a First Order like episode, which I have been craving for so long. So yeah, this was definitely, despite my issues throughout the middle of the episode, this was definitely my favorite episode of the season. And I honestly cannot wait what this sets up for, because I do think this sets up for a lot of things, a lot of cool things that are about to happen.
Absolutely. Nico.
Okay, so I've been teasing it for the entirety of this discussion. Here's where we tie things into my senior research project. I'm doing a report on the familial aspects, both in terms of real life stereotypes and fictional tropes and traits of parents, specifically within the MCU Avengers, the three Avengers who have families of their own with kids. And in some of my research, I've uncovered some tropes in fiction regarding mothers and fathers. And in regards to the mother, this is especially true with superhero films. Female figures, be it motherly figures or love interests, they don't often get the opportunity to shine on their own. They're mostly there to serve the male protagonist and be motivation for them. And in terms of mothers, like if they're there, they usually get killed off or they're not there at all to make the father and child dynamic stronger in its own way. And I feel like this episode kind of both defied that trope and also hit it spot on. And the reason why is because, to use another superhero analogy, look at the relationship between Big Daddy and Hit Girl in Kick-Ass. Excuse me if you have to bleep that out. But so the mother's not in the picture, and then the dad dies towards the end of the movie, and then that's a motivation for Hit Girl to invest fully into the hero lifestyle. Meanwhile, with this, you don't see this often with mothers, but Tora takes a lot after her mother as opposed to after her father. So we see those traits of her, and like that's something rare in fiction, is that usually children don't take after their mothers as inspiration figures. They usually take after the fathers. So Tora is sort of the spitting image of her mother in terms of the duty she feels to protect the galaxy. On the other hand, going back to that hologram and the discussion after the hologram at the end of the episode, where Tora says, the galaxy needs mom more than we do right now. That's still kind of fitting the trope of the mother is not necessary right now to make the family stronger. If anything, her removal is making the father-daughter dynamic stronger. I mean, Vanessa is still serving her purpose overall to the galaxy, but in terms of her family, she's not really there. So, like, it's problematic, but also sort of progressive at the same time in Vanessa's usage in this episode. So will something change? We'll see. But yeah, that's something I've learned over the past couple of months through my studies, and I've figured like it's rare that we get an inspirational mother figure, but she's still not in the family picture right now, and that's problematic.
I mean, for the characters, certainly. I think for the story, it works wonderfully. And yeah, I've also noticed that their relationship is a lot tighter than you usually would see between kids and their parents in TV shows, especially for younger people. Like, I know that, for example, real fast, in Avatar, we see that Katara has a super tough time adjusting to life with her dad once he comes back into the picture because he went to war and she never quite forgave him for it. Especially after their mom died. Yeah, but once they had something that brought them together, they stayed together stronger than ever. So, Yeah, good point, Nico. Fair enough. And I think, I'm kind of with Case, wherein, I needed this episode. I need an episode like this that really brought back the First Order, made them a threat again, but also gave us some good deep dive into the characters that wasn't just, I'd say, needless details. Like, this is actually important to why the characters are the way they are. It's why.
I honestly wish that they could do more episodes like this where something's actually going on with the First Order, and it's important, and you understand the threat and the urgency when you can still do a character type episode. Because we had the episode with the aliens. 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Damn it!
I'm blanking too.
Yeah.
Either way, two episodes ago. Yeah.
Yeah, two episodes ago where they faced the dragons. We talked about what if it had been the First Order. What if it was tied into a First Order type conflict? Because then everyone who watches the show understands the urgency, the need, the threat, with it still being a personal story for the characters that we haven't really focused on. And that's why, honestly, the last couple of episodes have been bugging me, because we didn't see the First Order, and it was just them doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff, and it didn't seem all that important or urgent. Because, well, you have the First Order, use it.
Yeah. And yeah, ditto. So
Clicks and Orca. Jesus.
there you go. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I think that ought to about do it for all of our collective thoughts on the episode. So, guys, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Vive la Resistance. It is good to be back doing this show because, again, we're sorry for last week. Scheduling was just a pain in the butt. But next week, obviously, we'll be back. Same bat time, same bat channel. And, of course, Case, where may the good folks find you online?
You can find me at Dutch Movie Guy on Twitter, Case Cornelius on Facebook and Letterboxd. Review The Mandalorian every week because besides Star Wars Resistance, of course, a very big show is now actually uniting the Star Wars fan base. What? How does that happen? But yeah, like The Mandalorian is great. If you're not watching it, you should because it's a great show and we reviewed it over here. So that's awesome. Also, we do Shimono reactions, and we have a live show this week. It will be pre-recorded. Chris can talk more about that.
I'll talk more about that. Nico, where may the good folks find you online?
Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at Nico Suave Regoli, or just Nico Suave with 4 random English numbers at the end on Discord, Instagram, Snapchat, and LinkedIn coming after graduation. Combat Wrestling Trivia on Facebook, Combat Wrestling Network on YouTube. The poorly made Twitter handle is at Combat Wrestling, the number 2. There is no letter G. Sometimes on TMG Entertainment, where I'm the current Chokeslam Wrestling Debate Champion of the World, and right here on Dedicated to Art, and all the places Case just said and Chris will say, hashtag Triviathon 2. There will be an announcement video on this channel coming later in this week.
Woo, finally. And, of course, you guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, Letterboxd, and Discord at Skywalker Dome. And you guys can follow Dedicated Art on Twitter and Instagram at D2A Channel. Please like our Facebook page, join our Facebook group, keep up with the conversation. If you're looking to join the channel next year, we are accepting applications. We are accepting submissions for on-camera and behind-the-scenes personalities to help with graphics, editing, so on and so forth. Make sure you guys hit us up, D2A Channel. That's DTOA Channel at gmail.com. And yes, this Friday, we won't have a live show because I'll be on vacation. Yes. But we are pre-taping something probably either tomorrow or Wednesday to drop for Friday night, just so that you guys still have a show to watch. You know, because I'm courteous like that. So. Until, well, I guess not next week for me, but hopefully these two next week when they review the next episode. Viva la Resistance!
May the Force be with you always.
Yeah!